Stephen James is chairman of the Folkestone and Hythe Conservative Association. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Good morning. How are you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you, and I hope you are too. I guess this begs the question this morning, Stephen, as to whether ordinary people, like voters in your own constituency, really do give a damn about Partygate. What is public opinion telling you?
I mean, certainly where I've been talking to people, it's, they're obviously cross. They're cross about what's happened in terms of, our Prime Minister getting in trouble like this, but also at the same time, they're very, kind of understanding about kind of what's happened as well. And, this weekend I was up in London helping some of my colleagues campaigning for their local elections, because obviously they've got elections coming up in May, and the mood on the doorstep was very, I'm cross with Boris, and something I can agree with and empathise with, but also at the same time there's no kind of viable alternative as well. And one of the things I'm a great fan of, especially with our parliamentary democracy, is having a strong opposition and making sure that they're holding our government to account. And I just don't see that at the moment. I think the opposition have got some questions to answer as well.
But this is about trust as well, so I guess we need to understand what happens next for the Conservatives. How do they begin to rebuild trust? Because certainly there are some people, some Conservatives, who are unhappy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think trust starts at a very local level, especially with the local elections coming up. It's are your services being delivered well? Are you kind of being looked after at a kind of community level? But then, taking a step back and look at a more national picture and looking at, what's going on in Europe at the moment, and, can we trust our Prime Minister to deliver on supporting Ukraine and making sure they get the weapons and support that they need? And, I think the overwhelming answer is yes. And obviously the President of Ukraine has said exactly the same.
Now, we know no Prime Minister can last forever, as our political reporter has just told us. This is Boris Johnson's 1,000th day in the post of Prime Minister. He's certainly done better than some before him. But do you think with all this going on, there is an escape route, and perhaps Boris Johnson already has a timetable to stand down?
No, certainly not. I don't think it's in him to kind of have that kind of that roadmap in his head. I think he very much sees he's going to go on, and he's got an agenda to deliver, and he's going to be pushing that as much as possible. And also he's a proven kind of vote winner as well. Who else can we see kind of in the immediate party that's going to step into that role and deliver a kind of visionary levelling up of our country?
So would you like to care to predict, Stephen, what might happen in the Commons when Boris Johnson faces MPs of all sides after 3:30 this afternoon?
I think he's going to get a tough time, but also rightly so. He should get a tough time, and he should be held to account by Parliament and by parliamentarians and by even the ones in our kind of own party as well. I know that Roger Gale hasn't been backwards and going forwards in critiquing the Prime Minister, and he needs to answer those questions frankly and honestly. And the idea, I think, that he knowingly misled Parliament, I think it's kind of no go with me, especially kind of with the wider party as well. I don't think people kind of just see it that way, because the next day in the newspapers after he had that birthday cake, it was in the Times, and nobody was kind of causing a fuss at that time. So it all seems that we're kind of holding people account 2 years after the event with even higher standards than we had at the time.
Sorry seems to be the hardest word to say, but do you think if he made a full apology and an apology from the heart, that would be sufficient for MPs of all sides?
I think Boris he's apologised on a number of occasions, and I think, as your political reporter said, again, apologising will kind of admit guilt, and also at the same time, by accepting the fixed penalty notice, it's not an admission of guilt; it's a kind of administrative process. So, I think I think what you'll get is a full apology in terms of for the way that this has come across, and for him not knowingly misleading Parliament. So it's difficult, and I'll be looking at the words myself very carefully today.
Thank you, Stephen. Stephen James is chairman of the Folkestone and Hythe Conservative Association.